All right, good evening. Welcome to Dexter Community Schools Board of Education meeting. This is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. Upon request, the superintendent the district shall make reasonable accommodation for a person with disabilities to be able to participate in this meeting. And also as a reminder, please silence your cell phones. I'll call the meeting to order. Would you like to do a roll call?
Mr. Alambre?
Here.
Mr. Arnold?
Here.
Mrs. Bruderly? Here. Mrs. Greatorex?
Here.
Ms. Kangas? Here. Mr. Lundy?
Here.
Mrs. Zawara?
Here.
Mr. O'Haver? Mr. Patel?
Okay, moving on, we will approve the meeting minutes from October 10th, 2022, which is included in our packet.
I move that the Board of Education approve the minutes from October 10th as presented. I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from October 10th, 2022, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, we'll move on to the approval of our agenda. Board policy provides that the superintendent of schools shall prepare an agenda for all board meetings as directed by the president of the Board of Education.
I'll move that the Board of Education approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or any amendments? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, sorry. We'll move on to our school presentation.
I'd like to start with, this month is National Principals Month. We have an incredible group of principals and administrators. Short video that was prepared to recognize them with some gifts. And I think we have one here.
What do you about the takeaway? Thank you, Rob. We appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Bailey, Mr. Madison, for supporting our athletic program.
So we got them a little gift that we'll be delivering. Might have yours here. You went all out. That's awesome. So also on the presentations, we have a couple teachers here and Mrs. Stidham for the launch update. I don't know if I was in charge or Ryan's in charge.
Yeah, so last fall, we talked a little bit about the change that we'd be making at young 5 through 2nd grade. And we talked about world language will be shifting to our older students, and in its place, we would bring in a new special called Launch. Launch was a special that had the design thinking. We were very fortunate to have 2 very qualified exceptional teachers be excited about this opportunity. So Mel Jolie and Kristen Lynn, both previously were kindergarten teachers at Anchor and Beacon. Just terrific educators who've been co-teaching this launch class. I know they put together a nice video to give an overview, and then they and the student will be able to talk a little bit about the success of the program this year. So,
You ready for the video?
Don't laugh. It was my first.
We have used the most magnificent thing to help students learn about the launch process.
L is for look, listen, and learn about the goal. A is for asking questions. U is using research to understand the goal. N is next, make a plan. C is for create. H are all of those how questions. How did it work? How can I fix it? How can I make it better? Then you go back to C to fix or make it better, and then you launch to an audience. Since students from both Anchor and Beacon are working together in launch, it was important we started the first few weeks with teamwork activities.
At the beginning of each project, we talk about our goal.
We always make a plan.
Next is making a plan. The students make individual plans and work together to make the group plan.
When we finished each project, we launched to an audience. For this project, each student made a video on Seesaw to show their family.
Whoa, what's the height of a carrier for our buddy? I don't like and it just comes out. Yeah. But then but we haven't had, so the way we built it is these catapults and we put out the window so we can see and they come. Yeah. And we use a lot of tape and so it's not something. And we also made a cardboard box house, and we made a wing on the decoration, and then one wing.
Gallery walk is when we walk around the classroom and look at all of each other's creations. Closing circle, we reflect on the day's work. Hope you enjoyed learning about launch.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you've been working on? Outside of this, or
So we brought
it's all yours.
a few little examples. The book, The Most Magnificent Thing, has a girl who builds a carrier for her dog to attach to a scooter. So the first thing they had to do is we had little beanie babies and they all had to teamwork different carriers for their animals. So it was neat to see the differences, the amount of tape that children like to use. But they all, different within themselves, similar, with some ideas, but it was really neat. So we're on to our second round. We started today with first and second. So.
And I just have to give props to these two teachers who really, we had a sort of a skeleton of an idea when we came to the board and worked all summer to start creating some projects, collaborated with other classroom teachers to, eventually our goal will be to do some integration with the other classrooms, but they're also co-teaching, which is really the first that we have at the deck. So they have 40 to 50 students in that workshop and managing collaboration with all of them. So they have been amazing in launching this new class. You tell us your names.
Yeah, I'm Mel Joling.
I'm Kristen Lynn.
Mrs. Jolie, fantastic. I'm just happy when we proposed the class, didn't know who was going to want to do it. And it looks really cool.
It's you all too, the kids are saying, they can't wait for lunch day. They can't wait for lunch day. They have done so much creative things, and the kids really have only had probably 4 or 5 classes with them because they just see them once a week for an hour. So it's not, not every day, but they know that they're building onto these projects and really adding onto their thinking and learning how to work as a team.
I love that you guys added that gallery walk into it. I'm sure that was an original concept for you. That was not part of the program we saw. So that's really because it's able to have the kids take other thoughts from their fellow classmates. That's fantastic.
Thank you. And also this summer at the PBL, we were able to work with Wiley as well. So we kind of shared a little bit about what they do and what we can start at our level to try and take back up. So that's been great.
Yeah, this was really neat to see go, from concept to actual practice and to see the kids really be excited about the project and what they're learning and working collaboratively. That was really fun. And thank you for putting it together.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, we hope in the spring we'll be able to have some students come and share too, but yes, they're still just turning 5. So. Yes, we'll train them up on that, those 4 C's before the spring.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we need to turn it over to Mr. Bruder. We've received, every district in the state received what's called 98C funding. It is for learning loss through the ESSER 2 funds. Mr. Bruder's been working with their staff on a plan. There are pretty restrictive rules, and we don't know how much money we're going to get. So you're kind of guessing right now. We're deaf, so he's going to go into some detail. Am I projecting?
That'd be great, thank you.
Okay,
Before we start, you said new set of funding for the ESSER 2?
it's another set. Yeah.
It's a new set of old money. We are spending down, the state's spending down some previously allocated money. So this is the first time we've had access to it as a district, but as Chris alluded to, we're not quite sure how much money it's going to be. They've given us a very wide range. Part of getting this grant is coming to the board tonight with the plan that the district will be utilizing, but knowing that we won't know the exact dollar amount for about another month. So it's a little tricky here that we are sharing our thinking and we're sharing a few possibilities. And then once we have a better understanding of the actual dollar amount, we'll be able to better zero in on how many students and staff this can support.
But we have to apply for it and get it in motion, so and we have to spend it by the end of the year. This is the way it really goes.
So the target of this fund is to continue to mitigate learning loss. We've gone over a few data sets together collectively, and we have identified that while we are making gains, there are still opportunity for improvement across the district. We've tried to be very specific and intentional with the possibility of these funds, knowing that are there some stakeholders and are there some groups that we maybe aren't quite yet hitting as well as we need to. So while a lot of our work you previously heard has been literacy focused, we're actually going to flip it and we're going to talk a little bit about some math opportunities that we have for our students today. So again, just a quick data review. I'm putting up here for you our 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade data. This was their spring data. And the reason we're showing you 4th through 7th is that the targeted program is going to be for our 5th through 8th graders. So I wanted you to see where they ended up in the spring. If you remember back, green line is Dexter data, blue is going to be Washington County, and yellow is state average. So again, in these next few graphs here, and in the bottom, you can see which grade level it is. In the center of that graph, it'll say grade 4, grade 5, grade 6, grade 7. You'll see that Dexter line starting to track back upward, the positive trend, but again, not yet at levels that we once achieved. So we really want to do some intentional work in mathematics. So Chris can kind of go through the graphs really quickly here. And then this is a summary. Again, these are all of our grades math scores. So you're able to see on that far right, this is last year's test data. And again, we're not quite yet back to the level that we were once achieving in mathematics. So we put together a plan to support math in our 5th through 8th grade.
You can see on the right.
Yep, so that teal, the kind of baby blue on the far left is going to be 3rd, and then it'll work successively 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, the grades that take the test. So that gives you a snapshot of how our grades are doing over years.
You don't have them.
They don't. Step.
Yeah.
Yep. And they've actually changed. This was 7th and in 8th grade. Et cetera. That's the other challenge is the test changes all the time. But you can see the trend, we have to get that.
So again, we've put a lot of time and energy into literacy, and we've highlighted some of the success we've had with being very intentional in our literacy work. In grades kindergarten through 4th grade, we have really solidified our reading intervention program. We've been able to add some interventionists to kindergarten through 4th grade to make sure that we're catching kids early and giving them support often. We have solidified our reading intervention programming utilizing SIPS, which is the program that the board funded last year for SLI. We've been carrying it through this fall as well, which has been terrific. We have a subset of students using Sonde, which is Orton Gillingham based for phonemic awareness and phonics. So these collectively have really done a lot for our students, and we're seeing a lot of positive growth in their scores. Our kindergarten through 2nd graders will be utilizing Lexia, which is some scaled literacy opportunities on their iPad. So students will have access to a lot of text at their just right reading level. Staff will be receiving training on this next Monday, and things like this we've been able to purchase with funding from years prior with some of these learning loss grants and opportunities. We have been kind of working ahead. So again, we have a great literacy plan, but as we've looked collectively and worked with our admin team, we've realized there's a real opportunity in math. Math intervention really is happening inconsistently across the district. Young 5 through 4th grade, I would say more of it is happening within the classroom. Teachers able to differentiate, pull small groups and do some targeted instruction. But 5th through 8th grade, we saw a real opportunity to better support more students. So what we're hoping to do with these funds is the Dexter Community Schools plans to provide one-on-one targeted just-in-time high leverage tutoring to students in 5th grade through 8th grade utilizing the NWA MAP Accelerator. NWA MAP is something that you are likely familiar with. That's our standardized test that our students take 3 times per year. Accelerator is a program that NWA rolled out a year ago. We had a small group of students pilot it at Creekside with some great success. Creekside has now brought this for all of their students. They're utilizing 1 time per week for 20 to 30 minutes. You'll see a little bit later here, and actually right down below, our goal is to give this to about 60, 70 students 3 times a week for 30 minutes. And there's some graphics that will show the impact that NWA Accelerator has. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how MAP Accelerator works with the students that we utilize. So Accelerator is powered by Khan Academy. Khan Academy is probably something that you're familiar with, more individualized math programming that allows students to access the learning at their level, at their own pace. Khan Academy is Common Core aligned, 700 plus exercises, 7,500 practice problems, so the kids are never going to run out of great things to do. It's relevant, it's fun, kids really enjoy working on it. It can be monotonous if it's not done intentionally, and so we'll talk about how the teacher is going to support to make sure that it continues to be engaging. So all of our students already take NWA MAP. So the graphic on the far left is just representing all kids taking the NWA assessment. Now, what we do with the data is internally, we are processing that data and we're talking about instructional moves that we need to make. So we're using that data to drive our instruction. Khan Academy has partnered with NWA MAP to create what they call the accelerator. So they have written algorithms that take students based on their areas of strength and their areas of weakness, and they put them on personalized pathways to improve specific skill sets in mathematics. So in the middle there, you see Khan Academy working with MAP, and then again, we get these program plans for each one of our kids. So all of us take the NWA MAP test, the math assessment. We're all gonna have different things that we need to continue working on. For some of us, it will be strengthening skills. For others, it might be extending skills and working at that next level. For this particular fund, we're going to be working on strengthening skills. So we're going to be targeting students that would benefit from additional time, support, and practice, and making sure that they have opportunity to that high leverage tutor. So what happens is the NWA helps place students in different skills in different groups based on the scores that they achieve on their NWA MAP assessment. A teacher will have access to this. Teacher also has some ability to make some adjustments. So if my score is not reflective of what the teacher is seeing in their classroom, they're using formative assessment that tells them otherwise, student may be performing a little bit higher or a little bit lower, teacher can go in and manually make those changes, which is really nice to the program.
Yeah, these are not our students.
Yep, these are all fake names. These are all fake names, yep. So this is what a student's profile would look on. So again, think student here, Joseph signs in, he would have his NDE Map Accelerator. The really cool thing is they know their demographic, they've gamified mathematics. So kids go in and they kind of level up, that's what it's called. So the more time they put in, the more practice they do in a certain problem, they level up those math skills. Our 5th and 6th graders that are currently doing it, they love it. They think it's really engaging and really fun. So this student would have different goal areas, and then they'd have different activities and outcomes based on their goal areas. Teacher would have access to oversee all the students in their class. And in our proposed tutoring program, we'd have one person who's helping facilitate that. So why tutoring? Well, we know that tutoring provides the opportunity to customize learning to target a student's immediate learning needs. It provides additional instructional time by aligning the tutoring activities to the current classroom activities, offers more engagement, rapid feedback, less distraction in that one-on-one setting, small group environment, and it creates meaningful mentor relationships. Getting some quality face time with a trusted adult we know is so important for our students. And so all of this is coming from a state of Michigan report about the opportunities that tutoring provides. Students will be identified through the MAP assessment. So again, they've already taken it. We just have their scores. The window just closed. So now we know what pathways to put them on. MAP will provide that diagnostic information. So not only screening where they're at, but giving us those specific pathways to figure out how to best support them in their learning. Through that MAP accelerator and the NWE MAP, we will be able to measure progress. So we'll be able to progress monitor. So we have another testing window in winter here. So we'll be able to know, is this tutoring working as we continue to monitor their data and growth. From CEO of NWA, Chris Maggie says, teacher-informed, teacher-driven app accelerator enables students to focus on their own needs and empower teachers to support them every step of the way with actionable data. And really, that's what we're looking for when we talk about collecting data and using it to drive instruction. Here are some estimated graphs of growth. So here you have the breakdown 3rd grade through 8th grade. And the key on the far right shows how much students are accessing MAP. So that darkest green line is students that are utilizing MAP for 30 minutes more per week. On average, they are outscoring or outgrowing students that do not take the test. Anywhere from 9 to 14 points per grade level. So again, in our proposed program, we would have 5th through 8th graders utilizing it for 90 minutes per week, which we will hope to see immediate payoff.
Where's that data from?
This is from NWA, their case study. This is not our data. We haven't done this for long enough to get this data. This is from their case study when they have used NWA Accelerator with schools.
How many?
I don't know
They don't know
the
the data, so they're able to track every school in the country that uses their tools.
Has it been used for a while?
This,
It's only a year.
yeah, this is year 2 for them.
So it's relatively new.
Still relatively new. Yep. So kind of review and revision in terms of where we go from here. Our charge is to share with you our plan. Once we receive confirmation from the state about what that total amount will be, we will work to identify 20 to 25 Dexter teachers. These could be teachers in any grade level that are excited to support our students in their math education. What we would ask of those teachers is a commitment of 3 hours per week. And in those 3 hours per week, they'd be able to support 2 students for 3 30-minute sessions. We would look to bring on 1 teacher to help coordinate all of the mentorship opportunities. So really starting to pair what is student availability and what is teacher availability. These mentorship opportunities are going to happen outside of school hours. So we know that all of our 5th through 8th graders have a device available to them. Again, we know that this tutoring method via Zoom has worked effectively. Our teachers were very positive, our students were very positive on those one-on-one opportunities during virtual learning. So we would use that to work with students with the schedule that best fits their need and teachers as well. And so that third party, that coordinator, will help match make to make sure that we have students getting tutoring at the times that will work best for them. Once we get that NWA data, our leadership teams will work with classroom teachers to identify roughly 60 to 80, I want to say, students. It's really difficult to give you a more specific number without knowing the total from the state. If we're on the low end of state funding, it really could be 60 to 65. If we're on the higher end, it could be 90 plus. That range is so wide at the moment that it's hard to give you a very specific number. But once we get it, we'll have a better idea of what we're actually be able to do. Funds will be allocated to utilize the NWA MAP Accelerator to get some additional licenses. Again, our students at Creekside already have it, but we anticipate needing about 30 to 50 more licenses for our Mill Creek students who do not currently have the program, as well as compensation for the Dexter staff that will be running these tutoring sessions. So again, once we identify students, invitations will go out. Participants will be able to schedule their preferences. We'll have that coordinator play matchmaker and try and figure out when our students and when our teachers can best get on the same schedule to do this tutoring. And then we'll have an opportunity for some professional development for the 20 to 25 staff who are excited to support our students. We see it as a great opportunity for all of our teachers, kindergarten through 12th grade, who are looking to support kids in a new, different way, make a few extra dollars, and to really help us with this math challenge that we're seeing. And again, just to reiterate, we'd love to give you a very specific number of teachers and kids, but we're giving ourselves the grace below the window, just knowing that there's about a $60,000 difference between our low and our high. We're not quite sure where it would be. We did want to put on there that if we find ourselves in a position where we're supporting an adequate number of students and we still have additional funds in these one-time grants, we do have some literacy opportunities, potentially in a similar format that we could replicate. So we wanted to put that in there just to give ourselves that option if we so need it.
And just to give you an idea, in order to do 3 times a week, 30 minutes per session for 20 weeks, it's about $1,800 to $2,000 per kid. So just to understand how much it really costs to do this.
Okay, for the license and for the teachers, additional time.
That would just
The
be
license-
teacher's time.
Yeah, the license is very inexpensive, all things considered. It's roughly $10 to $12 per student. So that isn't a big cost to the district. It really is going to be supporting staff to get that one-on-one time with the student.
Yeah, we already kind of throwing it out there to see what.
I had an opportunity to speak to leadership teams at Mill Creek and at Creekside, and they thought there'd be interest within their students, and they also thought there'd be interest within their teachers. We haven't opened it up yet to the deck, to Wiley or the high school staff. Considering we have 200 great teachers in this district, I have to imagine we'd be able to find. If we had to, we could definitely open up teachers who work more than those 3 hours. And also if we need to look outside the organization for qualified people to support tutoring, that would be a possibility we would look at.
We're trying to, part of the virtual option is to get flexibility. We have found we can try to hold tutoring right after school. The attendance is sketchy because there's transportation issues, and sometimes we end up, if we provide transportation, we find we have students that live in every corner of the district, and we're driving a bus for 2 hours to drive around. So we're trying to make it flexible for families, and for the staff, so that we can appropriately staff it and get it done.
So did I hear you say that Creekside is, I know you said Creekside is piloting it. Is it being piloted across all students?
Yeah, great question. Creekside, all 5th and 6th graders currently have access to Accelerator. They all will do it for 20 to 30 minutes per week. So they have all made a commitment to give students one opportunity for 20 to 30 minutes, which is definitely great, better than nothing.
Yeah, and that's part of the school day?
That's part of the school week for them, absolutely. Our goal would be to identify 20%, 15 to 20% of kids that would benefit from some additional support and give them 90 minutes per week.
Okay, and is that something you would look to expand to Mill Creek to give those kids, look to give all kids in Mill Creek that access? I love the concept of the extra assistance.
Yeah.
But I was just interested in order to reach as many as possible. If kids had access, is this something they can keep working on at home themselves also?
Yeah, great question. I don't know why we couldn't. I think, again, we'd like to look at what the money looks like coming from the state. And if there was the opportunity to support all of Mill Creek and there was interest in this teacher and student population, by all means, we could have that conversation and see if it makes sense at Mill Creek.
I think, reflecting on, you talking about it being a gamified situation, and
Yeah.
I'm remembering Prodigy. I know how my kids wanted to come home and keep doing Prodigy, so I wondered if it was a similar thing that would engage the group that you're trying to target, even if they weren't involved in the extra tutoring.
Sure, makes sense.
I assume the license that we have for Creekside students, it's unlimited use for those students, so can they work on this at home? Can parents see what they're working on at home?
Yeah, great question. I had a chance to talk to a few Creekside teachers. We talked about that. What does it look like in the classroom versus what does it look like in a one-on-one setting? And one of their biggest reflections was that in the class right now, they're sitting around 15 to 20 minutes and saying, students, let's go work on our end-to-end map accelerator. And it's very difficult for them to monitor that every student is engaged in the video portion and the lesson portion. So there's a lot of students that look as if they're engaged in the work, but they may not be as engaged as they would need to be or would benefit. So in that one-on-one setting, it's 30 minutes. Teacher and student can watch the video together. Teacher can coach the student through the video, and then there's time for practice problems together as well. So we just see a little bit more impact in that one-on-one opportunity.
Is there the opportunity though for the parent to be that
That'd be terrific.
person at home helping the struggling student to watch the videos and go through the lessons above and beyond?
Yeah, and I think
is it unlimited use for the license?
my understanding is that it's unlimited use. I would love to reach out to the Creekside team to learn a little bit more about how families might be able to support this work at home. It's a great thought. So our next step, we will upload this to the state. We'll share with them that we've shared with you our plan for learning loss mitigation. And then when we hear back from the state about what that amount will be, we'll have a little bit more, we'll do an update for you to let you know what we'll be able to do as a district. So thank you for that.
Is every school district guaranteed something that you would see, or is it, you know, maybe not, like some of the grants
We'll
that
get some.
apply for, like the safety grants, you may or may not get, right? But is this, because it's ESSER funds at your school?
Yeah, this is not a competitive grant in the sense that districts that meet the criteria will get funding. I think that they're waiting to see how many districts will meet the criteria. There was a lot of information thrown at districts waiting a very short time period to make things like this happen. I would hope that every district is able to do it, but I don't know, to be honest. I've talked to my counterparts in Washington County, and they all have great comprehensive plans like this to support students. But there are a lot of districts in the state that have a lot of things on their plate, so I'm not sure if everyone will get the funding.
When's it called? When's this supposed to do?
We had to do a presentation, they told us last week by October 30th. And then the grant application's not even due for another month.
Right, but you can't do the grant unless you do your board presentation. And so there were districts that also didn't have meetings on the board, on the calendar before the October cut, so they had to put special, so definitely a growth opportunity for the state in terms of scheduling.
And there's a with all the federal stimulus dollars and then whatever is carried over left over from. So whatever the grants they had over the last 2 years, if those were not all distributed, then they have to reshuffle it and give out new ones, and they have to legislative pass it. And then it goes to the Department of Ed and Treasury to figure out how to divvy it up. And there's, I filled out another form today. It's daily, and it seems like there's some other pocket of money that can. It's like getting a bunch of Bed Bath & Beyond gift cards and needing to buy groceries, but you're trying to float between what you can do and can't. So it takes a lot of coordination of the funds to maximize it. So, for example, they tell us that you'll get somewhere between $100,000 and $150,000 possibly for this. And but you have to do all of these things, and then you start calculating. Go, well, if we do it this way, we can help 20 kids. If we do it this way, we can help 60. If we do it this way, we can be within 80 or 90. So it's constant just trying to figure out where you're going to spend the dollars and where you have it, where the next gap is. So it's been, it's an interesting process.
Also try to be really thoughtful that whatever plan we put in place with these single-use funds, that there isn't a cliff, right? It feels really good to hire 10 more people to do intervention supports, but when the state says the money is gone next year, what do we do when we've just hired $1 million plus in salary? So we've really been thoughtful to try and put together a plan with the great staff that we currently have, and understanding that if the state isn't able to continue this funding in the future, which we don't expect them to be able to, that we'll have an exit strategy that will not impact students or staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is the first opportunity for public participation. During public comment, each speaker is allotted a maximum of 5 minutes for a total of 30 minutes. Unless otherwise notified, each speaker will be asked to announce his or their name and district of residence and indicate if he, she, they represents any organization or agency. No person may speak more than once on the same subject during a single meeting. Those wishing to receive a personal response from the board or superintendent must complete a public comment form available at the meeting entrance. and on our website. In addition, as presiding officer, I would like to remind everyone that public comments should pertain to Dexter Community School District matters and concerns related to the operation of the schools or to matters within the authority of the board. Those who wish to speak shall direct all comments to the board and not to staff or other participants. Also, speakers addressing the board shall take into consideration rules of common courtesy. Speakers who make attacks of a personal nature and or do not abide by the rules of common courtesy will be reminded of such rules by the board president or the presiding officer. Such individuals may be asked to leave the meeting if their behavior is disruptive or interferes with the orderly progress of the meeting. Also, please understand that board members do not respond to public comments, but we will listen very carefully and follow up as appropriate. If there is immediate need for clarification, we will do so after the speaker's allotted time. I invite anyone who would like to participate, either raise your hand or step up to the podium. Okay. Seeing no one raising their hand or stepping up to the podium, we will move on to our next item of the agenda, which is the administrative and board updates. Starting off with the superintendent.
So we have years ago, we set up an exchange with school and Birdhouse, working with Aker Chemical. And they've just moved their headquarters to Ann Arbor, North American headquarters, and then their international headquarters are in Birdhouse in Bavaria. So we have on Thursday, 15 students from Germany coming to stay with 15 students at Dexter. They'll be participating in a series of activities, and then this summer our students will go stay with their partners. So that's starting off this Thursday, so we'll have some kids coming and a couple chaperones. We have not been able to do this since before the pandemic. It's been years of this experience, and it's great. And I want to thank Molly Sharp for coordinating it for so many years. It's really a great experience for kids. In addition, we have lots of teams wrapping up for the season. Some teams playing into we probably broke the Chelsea streak. It was 26 years long. It's nice to have that done. Now we can move on. We have activities going on. We'll have winter sports will get started at some point. The different seasons for orchestra concert is this week. Or say it's going to be tomorrow. We had play last weekend, so lots of things going on. It feels so much more.
What grades are the kids from?
8, 9.
They're staying with host family, right?
Yes.
And their kid are gonna reciprocate.
Yes. 15 or so. They're here for 10 days and our students are going to. It's a good experience.
That's where I met Molly for the very first time. We were chaperones. I was on the French program. She was on the German program. Headed to Detroit. All right. Moving on. Does anybody have any other questions for Chris? Dr. Timmons, we'll move on to the board president update. I thought this week for my update, I would talk a little bit about the MASB annual leadership conference. Just a brief run through, and then later we can talk about more into the delegate assembly. It's always great to speak to other trustees and other districts and share their perspectives. And it's great to hear from people who serve so many terms as well as new people. And in fact, through those conversations, I was reminded that with the exception of Dick, our board is all on their first term of service. And so we have a very young board. It's Dick and me with like 4 years of service. So very young board. And that surprised a lot of people. Also of note, there were several boards that had board members that attended. That all the board members attended the conference, and in fact, it was part of their board bylaws to continue education. And now the provision that the state legislature has made towards continuing education for boards, that'd be an awesome thing to sort of look into. So I arrived Wednesday night very late, and then went to the Thursday morning and afternoon combined workshop that was called Guiding Public Schools for Increasing Academic Achievement. We focused on several areas, first reviewing the Lighthouse study from the Iowa Association of School Boards, which identified characteristics of school boards with higher level of student achievement and how they lead their districts toward that high performance. We talked about the 7 conditions of school renewal, which includes shared leadership, continuous improvement, ability to create and sustain initiatives, supportive workplace for staff development, support for school cited through data and information and community involvement. All the things that we talked through, and we talked what was working and what isn't, and it was nice that I had like a lot of positive things to say from our own district. And then of course, it sort of cemented it with Ryan's presentation today, really going through all that data. And then the 5 roles of the school board to set clear expectations, hold the system accountable, create conditions for success, build the public will, learn as a board and superintendent team. And then one of the other things we talked about was having really great principals, the actual people, and that the longer they stay, the more stability they create in the district. So it was really great to have that other presentation about national school principals. So also we talked about being a moving board and not a stuck board. And a moving board identifies problems, chooses a target, and clears a path for staff and students to rise up, like a rising tide, if you will. And then Elise and I Friday morning attended the keynote speaker, Linda Fisher-Gordon, and she spoke about the 7 lenses of ethical leadership. And I'm just going to go really quick through this. So the 7 lenses of ethical leadership. First thing is profit, and it's responsibilities to the shareholders and the stakeholders. So even nonprofits have to keep the lights on. So it's, we say, think profit as money, but it's also actually working to keep the lights on. Law, the punishment threshold, does it follow the minimum standard of the law? Character, moral awareness, transparency, integrity. People working one-on-one, caring about diversity and inclusivity. Communities, making life better for others, volunteering and our community's wellness. It's bigger for the planet, respecting life, nature, and the ecosystems. And then, of course, the greater good, leaving things better than we found them. So, and then I'm sure Elise will elaborate on that because she stayed next to the next day. But I thought I would go through that and share that we do a lot of very interesting and educational things while we're up there.
Most nonprofits call marching.
Exactly. I just like how she said that we do have to keep the lights on and the heat. I guess on past our oh, sorry. Yes. So the Ed Foundation rivalry update. So 26 years, after 26 years, we beat them in football. However, we did not beat them in our EFT rivalry match. However, from the president of EFT, EFT had a great week leading up to the Friday night and came into the night with a formidable lead. The match went back and forth for the quarter and a half of the football game. Chelsea got a 10K bump towards the end, and it was just a little too much to overcome for the Education Foundation of Dexter. Final scores were Chelsea Education Foundation at $50,072 and Education Foundation of Dexter at $47,679. Both foundations are so thankful to their respective communities. Support for this campaign was overwhelmingly positive, and it shows that by the final totals, even though EFD didn't win this match, the true winners are the students of the Dexter Community Schools, and these funds will ensure that EFD can continue its mission of promoting excellence in education. EFD would like to thank the district staff that made this event successful as it was. So last year, both foundations were in the 20,000s. Right. So the year before that, they were like $2,000 and $3,000. So just how much money is being raised is just so awesome, and it truly is. It is a win-win situation that all the students really benefit from this really great rivalry.
It's amazing how just in the last 3 or 4 hours, it went from 13-9 up to 47-50.
Yeah, it was.
Somebody's writing big checks.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of them I think was from someone who's not even with us here anymore. His wife used to be on the FDU a long time ago, and then they moved out, and then I think she passed, and he goes, "Oh, my wife loved this," and he donated 1,000. So
That's amazing. Okay, Griffin's got the inside track, so. Well, good, I talked about that, and now Griffin's here, so I can give.
red time. Well, of course, the Dexter Chelsea game happened. That's the main highlight in student life right now. Dexter football team's been good for the first time in quite a while. So that's something to celebrate. The playoff game this weekend or this Friday, Alrit. I think we keep hosting as long as we win up to 3 games. So there'll be up to 3 more Dexter home games, as well as the Dexter drama production line, which in the wardrobe just happened. That ended last night, and then next one will be sometime in the winter. And Shameless plug, the water polo season's over. We had a tragic loss against Saline, and it kind of shut our season down, but yeah, it was kind of sad. It was over. So I shouldn't miss any more board meetings.
I think Celine was coming for us because we took away the shared SEC title.
Yeah, their water polo team was taken back. I didn't even cover football. It's unfair. Yeah, should sum it up.
Thank you, Griffin.
And I do want to commend Griffin for his fine tuba playing, sitting at a volleyball match. I heard replication of the horn. Indoors.
We have a pet band for names that for some reason last year someone we had someone with like perfect pitch or something, and they just knew the note that the foghorn was. So they told me that, and now anytime we're in like pet band games, I just do the foghorn.
It is awesome.
It replicates when we're missing the foghorn.
Please don't teach that to me.
You love it.
B flat.
What are you doing here? Sorry. Okay, we're gonna go on. Any other questions for? Okay. We will move on to our consent items. Our packet contains summary financial information for the month of September.
I move that the Board of Education receive the September 2022 budget report.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we will vote to receive the September 2022 budget report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. All right, we'll move on to our action items. And just a reminder, because we just started this at the last meeting, our action items, our votes will be through roll call, as opposed to our approving of the meeting minutes, agenda, and consent items, which are just all by voice. All right, so we'll move on to our 2021-2022 year-end fund balance designations. Our packet included a memorandum from the Chief Financial Officer Sharon Rashke regarding year-end fund balance designations for 2021-2022.
I move that the Board of Education approve the 2021-2022 fund balance designations for the general fund as included in the attached recommendation from the Finance Committee.
Or
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? I see Sharon has stepped up just in case there are any questions. As always, it's very clear. Thank you for all your work.
Does anyone want to give a summary just to either what the committee discussed or whether this is in line with what we do, just an over high level?
Yeah, so we, our fund balance is set with specific designations for committed funds. So we have a committed facilities equipment and maintenance fund where we actually spent the last meeting was authorized by dump truck. It's for purchases we need to maintain our facilities. We have a facilities for athletics fund, which is we use bond dollars for as much as we can, but we do have pool cost, turf cost, field work we need to do, sometimes equipment. Performing arts equipment, we have a designated fund balance for performing arts equipment that we are currently working through a process on the CPA, so these funds are available. Some instructional materials and equipment funds set aside to maintain our programming or to expand our program. Technology funds, we have about 1.5 million set aside for technology funds. We are fortunate to have bond, but we just a couple of weeks ago, we had to replace our firewall and put in a 10 gig firewall, which was 40,000 just for that. So the money goes pretty quick for technology, especially when you're talking infrastructure. So we have switches, we have to replace, et cetera. We plan, but sometimes they break. And we had some goofy loops set up and some things that have happened over time that were causing some switches to go bad and some were going bad. So you have to have funds available for that work. Now we have some funding set aside for new programs. We did when we built Beacon Elementary in the Sirianni building, we set aside funds to support the startup costs for the building with extra custodial staff, et cetera. So we have the funds there. However, we have yet to be fully staffed custodial wise. So we continue to try, and like every other organization, staffing's a challenge. And then we have funds in all of our contracts. We are obligated for intercollective bargaining agreements, sick day and leave day payouts, accumulated days. So we have 2/3 of our obligations set aside, because that is a cost we actually have that we have agreed to in contracts that we need to pay, and it's responsible to actually put the money aside to pay it. And then there's an unassigned or an assigned fund balance that is usually or unassigned that's usually between 3 and 5%, a little over 5 right now, just because of all the flow of funds from the last year. You want to take it from there?
Just wanted to be available if there are any questions.
Well, basically, we went through and followed policy where we needed to on a couple categories there. We just adjust for policy for the fund carry forward and prepaid that it is. And then we have committed to doing the 90,000 and 10,000 additions annually, so that that looks at the life cycle of equipment there. And then the rest of the money assigned, that's, I think, a result of our approved budget. And the unassigned, we felt that we needed to keep that at the highest number because we need to have flexibility the way things change rapidly these days. It's better to have it in a flexible spot.
And we do want some unassigned funds because we did settle some contracts that were above what we originally planned in budgeting. So we need to have enough funds available to be able to pay the bills that we've agreed to.
Good job.
Thank you.
You are well trained.
Any other discussion? Right, we'll put it to a vote by roll call.
Mr. Albright,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold.
Aye.
Mrs. Curley. Aye. Mrs. Greatorex.
Yes.
Ms. Kangas. Aye. Mr. Lundy.
Yes.
Mrs. Guerra. Aye.
Passes. Our next action item is the 2022-2023 fund balance classifications.
And I'll just,
You gotta vote
Sorry.
in a second.
I'll move that the Board of Education authorize the fund balance classifications for the 2022-2023 fiscal year as outlined in the attached memo.
Or
It's been moved and seconded. If there's discussion.
so in prior years, we had the last action item and this action item kind of in one. And it always caused confusion about which years and things like that. So I did break them out. We are required under GASB 54, it was a new requirement, however many few years ago, to actually say these are the designations that we're gonna have for the upcoming year. So that's what you're approving right now. And in there, you'll notice not only the general fund classifications, but there are requirements for all of the funds if you have assigned or committed fund balance. That we go ahead and do that resolution each year so that the auditors will be able to look at board action, say there are funds committed for community services or athletics or whatever we have done. So this kind of tidies that entire, all of our funds up so that it's clear to the auditors and to the board what it is that you're approving. So this is for the new year. Those will be the classifications we have, and then as the year closes, we have those classifications to close out the year into the proper categories for the upcoming.
my take on this would be that we've always done it. Now the state's having us formalized.
Exactly.
So we're just 25 years ahead of the state. They finally are catching up with us on some things.
So hopefully this might get clearer for this year and going forward that they're two completely separate things, although you've got some of the same categories in both of them. You just approved last year's final year-end designations. Now you're approving the classifications for the upcoming.
You told us in the finance, I didn't ask the question. We have to change account numbers next year. If we have account numbers here, like, 11, 27, 31. Go to the state requirements. Change any of that.
No, our account numbers we're in good shape there. We just don't have, the document that you just did was only general fund. This document shows all the funds and what our classifications are. If I didn't totally confuse you.
No.
Questions and discussion? All right, we'll do another roll call vote.
Mr. Albright.
Aye.
Mr. Arnold. Mrs. Brutterly. Aye. Mrs. Greatorex.
Aye.
Ms. Kangas. Aye. Mr. Lundy.
Aye.
Mrs. Awera. Aye.
Passes. All right, our next action item is our first reading for our policies. Our packet includes our draft policies for 0144.1 compensation, 075.1 board expense reimbursement, 0151.1 presentation business meeting, 3109 curriculum animals, 3108 service animals, 6700 Fair Labor Standards Act, 7440.03 small unmanned aircraft systems, and 2260 Title IX sexual harassment. These policies were reviewed and edited by the policy committee at their meeting on October 19th and are presented for first reading this evening.
I move that the Board of Education approve the attached policy 0144.1, 0175.1, 0151.1, 3109, 3108, 6700, 7440.03, and 2260 for first reading.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Do you want to walk us through some of them, or-
Sure. I will just give the sort of overall picture, and if you have specific questions, let me know. Generally speaking, these policies have been updated to be compliant with the law. They have been reviewed by Sharon when necessary to make sure they are consistent with our business practices. Two of them, the service animals 3108 and the curricular animals 3109, are new for our district. And we did spend some time looking at possible policies, and the committee did settle on these from Troon and liked them. We liked the way they were laid out, that they were very clear, that they kind of listed the different questions that we had when looking at other policies. The business meeting policy that we are talking about rescinding, it is simply because the exact sentence that policy is, it's a one sentence policy, is duplicated in another policy. So it is already in our guide. So it is removable because it is already duplicated. Yeah. And then the Title IX specifically, I know there's a lot of changes in that one. That one has been updated to reflect the changes in the law.
So the pet policy was an interesting one to me. I was just curious about, for example, Tang used to be, I don't know if he's still.
He's still here.
Okay, so does he fall under curricular animal? How does that, or I guess instructional purposes?
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons that we wanted, that was one of the reasons that we wanted to make sure that we had some policy so that we could be consistent across the district, as people had interest in having animals in our school buildings. So service animals, correct me if I'm wrong, are the actual animals who may be with a student or a teacher that, is related to the specific needs of that person. Pretty much any other animal who may be in the schools would fall under like curricular animals. So therapy dogs, for example, are
Tank is a trained therapy dog. We have a couple others. We need to clarify what is a therapy dog, what is not a therapy dog.
So there is language in that policy that says like an emotional support animal that doesn't have any sort of certification, does not meet the definitions that we in this policy sort of are outlining. The idea is to make it sort of fair and accessible for people who are trying to do the right thing and want to bring this in as an element to their classroom or their school building.
These all come from the old.
No, we actually paid Troon for the policies on the curricular animals and service animals. The Neola templates were, they intertwined both into the same, it was a really long, confusing policy that actually, when you had implications of service animals, was challenging than it would be.
So they either come from the old or from our attorneys, so they're all that for accuracy and legal requirements.
This one was by far the most clear and most comprehensive, where you knew where you stood.
And this is just first reading, so if people have questions or feedback they want to send back.
Is this, I apologize for not reading this more clearly, but is this just in the building or is it on all properties?
For curricular animals is pretty much in the building. Service animals does. Service animals is interesting. So if it's a student with a service animal, they must provide the handler that we as a district hold from the animal. So we have to have certain systems in place and the care requirements and definitions of service animal.
Well, but I mean, the first sentence says, sorry, it does say that an animal's not allowed on district property except for X, Y, and Z. So I'm just wondering if I bring my dog, my child is in first grade, and I'm waiting in the waiting line with my dog sitting there, is that okay?
We ask them all the time not to, because
Okay.
the dogs end up getting in fights with other dogs. We ask. That's what we try.
The thing that was nice about these policies, as opposed to the other ones that we looked at, is that they had, sort of headings. If you want to know, how are we going to deal with allergies in the classroom? It's just really very clear and spelled out, and gives the people who are interested in participating with this just some very clear things, like what do I need to know about certification, what do I need to know about vaccination, stuff like that.
So it also allows us to bring chicks in, when they're hatching. It's great. It gives us the flexibility. Snakes, reptiles.
I did want to ask a little more about the allergies part, because I know it's like a little bit here about how if someone has an allergy, they can contact the district. Does that mean that like maybe switch out their class or something if someone is like very, do we have like a protocol for that? Is that just not?
Students have a right to a class over an animal. That's
What was the
general.
answer?
Students have a right to a class over an animal.
It's still not curricular.
Yeah.
These, I'm just gonna ask, are these like preemptive in nature or are they addressing actual
They've
issues
been,
we've had?
yeah, we've gone through the policy committee for at least 7 or 8 years trying to figure out what to do when something comes up. The Neola template was so. And then Troon, we actually have been following the laws, and we had all the draft policies. We wouldn't have been able to own Tank or Dexter the dog, or if we did own them, or we had those animals that reptile. We couldn't have had Mrs. Stidham or Mr. McCullough or Miss Pig or Fry. I mean, there were some things with the policies, so it really is time and Troon finally got a nice version that makes sense.
I mean, the easy answer is to say, like, there are animals in our building, and there is interest in people having animals in our building, so we are trying to lay out a pathway so that it's fair and equitable.
Used to have an elephant come every year.
Yeah, I remember
We can
that.
still do that according to these policies.
Great. That was
It
great.
goes with Bates, and the principal had a friend that had an elephant that lived in the house with him.
Oh, my.
Elephant got old. Elephant got old.
That's why Craig had to start kissing pigs. That's waste. Okay, is there any more discussion? The only elephant in the room.
You know, it's-
That's on all.
And all of them.
yeah, just a comment. For a second. Title IX sexual harassment. Paragraph 3. Just that, you said all the cross off. Not sure. Fine. Just
Hold on, slow down there. Where are you at?
Paragraph 3 of the 2260.
The board directs the superintendent to
Third
designate.
paragraph. Board that's a superintendent. These two, with one or more. Was
Designation.
dismissing. Ratings.
Yeah.
Okay.
they will-
Right? I think I know where you're gonna get. Second reading, send it out to us. No other questions?
Have you approved my briefs?
What's that?
So it was a good catch. I should have you approved legal briefs.
Any other? Okay. Put it to a roll call vote on the motion on the table to approve the attached policies of the first reading.
Mr. Labrie.
Aye.
Mr. Arnold.
Aye.
Mrs. Cooderly. Aye. Mrs. Greatorex.
Yes.
Ms. Kangas. Aye. Mr. Lundy.
Yes.
Mrs. Guerra.
Aye.
We'll move on to our bid packages for district-wide mechanical equipment replacement. Our packet includes a summary from principal for operations Craig McCullough regarding the domestic water heater bid.
I move the Board of Education approve W.J. O'Neill's base bid of $131,404.13 and assign contracts and Ranger Construction for management. I'm missing something. Yeah, the bid for the water.
Support.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
There we go. So my turn.
Yes.
So we're going back in history a little bit. We were approving the other bid packages. I don't know if you remember at the time when we came, we had a bid for the domestic water heaters. Well, Greg Graham, when he came and whispered in my ear, we can't take that bid because it's not correct. So we held that bid up. Part of what it was the company that had bid before, it only did one boiler at the high school and one at Creekside. We actually needed two at Creekside. So Greg Graham's been working. He ended up getting a bid. So the bid he has brought in is this bid from W.J. O'Neill. That's why you see the cost. The original cost was estimated around $85,000. This is more, but as you stood up here before and listened to our budget, our wonderful CFO, we have money aside that's set aside we had budgeted enough in this amount to cover. So in the cost that we had thought we were going to expect for the boilers or the water.
Can you remind me, is this comparable to what it was or was it?
It is more. We had thought it was going to be around 85,000. This is actually more, but again, we added one water heater to it with the cost of it. So before it was just for two, the correct bid was for three.
Okay. And this is out of bond money, correct?
Correct.
All right, great.
This is still series one, right? This one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is serious.
Any other discussion? All right, it's been moved and seconded and discussed to approve the W.J. O'Neill's base bid of $131,404.13 and assign contracts to Ranger Construction for management. Roll call.
Mr. Labrie.
Aye.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooderly.
Aye.
Mrs. Greatorex.
Aye.
Ms. Kangas. Aye. Mr. Lundy.
Yes.
Ms. Guerra.
Aye.
Unanimously passed. We'll move on to our
last action item, our 2022 site works bid package number 1. This evening's packet includes a memo from Craig McCollum regarding pavement rehabilitation project awarded to Naval Paving on May 2nd, 2022.
I move that the Board of Education approve an amount not to exceed $75,000 for the remaining Series 1 bond monies to be used for professional services and general conditions funds to complete the paving project awarded to Naval Paving.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion?
All right, so let me go through the numbers here, how they make, to help make sense. So the board approved earlier this spring before the asphalt work came into play. The board approved $1,063,934 for the asphalt pavement. We also, so at that time, because we are managing it, so Granger is out of it, it was the money for the asphalt and then for professional services as well, which is G2, which is the testing company, and then Beckett and Rader, which is our architects that helped us through the whole process. What we had as far as the funds, so we had that money to work with. We also had set aside for professional costs because we weren't sure what they were going to be. We had set aside $33,991 for professional costs that work within there to help cover those G2 and Beckett and Rader costs. So numbers at the end, right? I'm sure it's like another $75,000. Craig, tell me how that works. We got Nagle Paving to complete all the work, a few extras for a final total cost at $997,261.11. The G2 cost came in around $20,828, and the Beckett and Rader costs were the $53,775. So to help clean it up with the counties, the professional services of the G2 and the Beckett and Rader kind of hit that $75,000 number. We have a total budget of where we are from what we approved before, and the $75,000 gives us a little under 1.1 million. Actually gives us $1,097,925. The total cost out the door for the whole project is approximately $1,071,864.11. So we have a positive of a little over $26,000.
So in short.
Craig
finish the entire project under budget. We just had to move some money around, so we had more for the professional services because it was moved around from the actual paving to the architectural professional services.
So the 75 isn't going to Naval, so I would
No.
amend my, I need to amend my motion to remove that last part that I added. So I'll just
Yeah, that should be
amend my
professional
motion.
services. I apologize. You're
No,
right,
no,
yes.
you had it correctly. I made some assumption on my part. So I'm gonna amend my motion to the Board of Education approve the amount not to exceed 75,000 for the Series 1 bond money to be used for professional services and general conditions funds to complete the paving project, period.
I'll second.
So in short, Craig finished all that work under budget and on time.
Under the magic number of 26,000. All right, it's been moved to executive.
One project, many more going
We
on.
just need to vote on it.
Mr. Alabri? Mr. Arnold?
Aye.
Rudy? Aye. Raderick?
Yes.
Ms. Kangas? Aye. Mr. Lundy.
Yes.
Ms. Guerra?
Aye.
It's been approved. All right, we'll move on to our discussion items, which is the 2021-2022 financial results. Our packet includes financial results for 2021-2022 fiscal year and a summary from memo from CFO Sharon Rashke. This information includes the financial dashboard, financial results, budget analysis, board monthly financial reports, and the 2017 capital projects fund activity to date. This item is presented for discussion only this evening. The audit presentation is scheduled for December 5th, 2022 at the regular meeting.
Great overview. You just said it all. So yes, we've closed the year. It was a little more challenging than previous years. I wanted you to have this in advance of being able to pull together the audit. We don't have the final audit yet back, but I've edited it. So it's due on, it has to go to the state by Tuesday. So we'll have it back, but this represents what the audit will reflect. Just due to scheduling, Kim Lindsay couldn't come. based on the times of the board meetings until December 5th. But I wanted you to have the financial results, and this is the typical year-end packet. This is something that we do post on the business office website. And we have all of the prior years out there also, so that community, or you can always refer back to kind of overviews that we've had summarizing the year end. If you have any specific questions, I'll take them. If you want to like delve deeper into any of the stuff that I have in here or any other finance topics, let me know. I'm happy to sit down with you and take some time and go through whatever's burning on your mind or questions that get thrown at you that you don't fully understand.
Oh, wait, first to this, when do we get the second student count?
For this year, we're still in the comment. We'll have it early November, mid-November probably.
I think certification's like November 15th.
That's the first one.
The first one, the second one's in February, so we won't know that till March.
That's one.
But that one doesn't matter for this year.
Yeah, that's for next year.
So it's 90% of what we're counting right now and 10% of what we already counted in February.
So November.
Yeah, mid-November, and we'll have it, generally, we do the November budget revision, it should reflect that, so we can build the action.
Which hopefully will be December 5th, because that's the first time we have a board meeting after the count is due.
Thank you for all of your work on this, as always. I'm continually impressed. I would just like, I really appreciate the detail that you provided for the ESSER funds. There's been a lot of discussion throughout the state about how districts supposedly are not spending the funds on learning. And this clearly lays out exactly what we've spent the money on. And I'm really impressed with all of the work, and I encourage anybody who questions how we used our funds to look at this report. So I really appreciate that. And also obviously your attention to detail, because it's amazing. The question I do have is related to the 2017, the capital project that you prepared, that's in our package. And could you just walk me through just the bottom line, I guess? It looks like we had a budget of about 1 million, and project actual of 42, but if you could just tell me that.
Yeah.
Make sure I'm understanding this correctly.
So this is because our financials are reported just year by year, right? So the auditor will get up and say, this is how much we spent on bond this year. This was our interest or whatever. I keep this spreadsheet because it's multi-year. It started in 2017 and it crosses many fiscal years. But at the end of the day, we had a plan for what we were going to do in Series 1. And that was broken into Granger projects that were assigned to Granger, and then money that we had to spend on architect fees and just, B&G equipment and things that we were going to do directly. So this was a way that we created, I think back in the 98 bond, the finance committee created so that we could keep an overall view of what our financials look like for a bond issue. So this is the 2017. The account numbers might not mean anything to you, but the topics about what we've spent various amounts on are in there. But then I outlined the Series 1, what the budget plan was for these basically different line items when we passed the bond, and what we were planning to do in Series 1 and what we were planning to spend in Series 2, including how much money we got, the revenue we got from Series 1 and the revenue we planned for Series 2. And then the column for project actual is, if you look even at the revenue, we're still in Series 1, but if you see that in revenue, so like the first page of it, the revenue line, we have collected $56 million in revenue, but the plan was we were only going to collect $54 million in revenue. So by doing some investing, not risky investing, but laddered investing and doing a good job of investing, we ended up achieving about $1.4 million more that we could spend on real stuff because we actually earned earn that extra money. And so when you come then to the bottom line and you say, well, why did we spend project actual? We've already spent more than what our budget was for series one. It's because we had more money to spend. So it just gives you the big picture, and then the variance column is the series one variance, how much more or less we spent on various projects, but then also the bottom line of that variance, which obviously we spent more than we had planned because we got more money than we planned. And then the final column on the right, you have this each year, you get this same document. You'll see what we spent in the current year, because if you so chose to do so, you could tie that out to the audit and you would see how much the audit said we brought in revenue and expenditures for the construction fund.
It's normal really for us to end up with higher interest earnings because when we're putting the bond issues together, we're required to be very conservative, I think, on the expected interest return.
Yeah, the financial
So that's
advisors provide they take whatever the average interest rate or whatever, and if you do better than that, it's money that you can keep.
Through the high bond rate.
No, this is the investing side. So not only did we do a good job in selling the bonds and saving tons of money in interest, but then we also on top of it did a really good job investing the proceeds and laddering them out for when we were going to actually use the cash instead of just leaving it in a bank account getting 0% interest. What has it been since 2017? By actually doing some laddered investments and things like that, and some of the funds that we're able to invest in, we were able to achieve extra money, and then we can actually spend that money. So this is real money, where that 55 million that we saved by doing a special debt structure, we can't spend it, but it does save the taxpayers.
Questions? I would just like to say thank you to Sharon because she did sit down with me and answer a lot of questions today.
Happy to do that with anybody who wants to better understand me. Yeah, I had a few just specific questions, and we went through those questions, and I think it helped me.
We'll move on to our second opportunity for public comment. This public comment agenda item, we only have 15 minutes, so each speaker is allotted a maximum of 3 minutes. Same rules apply as from the floor. Please use common courtesy. Please state your name and district of residence, and then also make sure that your public comments pertaining to Dexter Community School District matters and concerns. Of course, people listen. All right. Looks like no one is jumping up again, so we will move on to our board comments, which include our delegate assembly. So Elise and I were the voting delegates for Dexter, and that was Thursday night, and so we went through all of the amendments that were up there, and some that were not, that were pulled from the general. It was very enlightening how fast it rolls, and also how slow it rolls. We might have spent 40 minutes talking about sportsmanship versus fair play. So, so it was very, I thought it was very interesting. But again, it was another opportunity to sort of get together with other delegates and trustees from other districts and sort of see where what everybody's priorities were. How long did the discussion go on? So we were supposed to end by 8:30. Real quickly ended into 9:20. So it did go a little. There were some that I will say that in looking at them, I thought would cause a little more discussion than they did, and then others that caused 40 minutes that I didn't think was going to happen. But again, it was really interesting to see it going on in person. It was very, very interesting. It's a lot of very, throws you into Robert's rules and on panels. Yes, no, point of order. I went up and spoke on one thing, of course, because I have to talk about everything. It was sportsmanship. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so not everything passed, not all the amendments that were put out went through. It was sort of interesting what passed and what didn't, and I'll be honest, my sort of takeaway was like, this is how the world moves, it moves a little bit here and then a little bit here, and you gain some ground, you lose some ground. It was just very interesting, and I've never been in a situation that was as formal, to have a parliamentarian sitting right there, double checking we had amended motions within, I have never seen that complex of a process, I guess, play out.
It's interesting. And did they get all worked up? I mean, last year they got all worked up. Some people were just really, really passionate about certain topics.
There were some people that
Jumped
returned to the
up.
microphone a number of times.
Yes.
Yeah. In general, I mean, as I said, I think I was surprised by what didn't pass, but I was equally surprised by what did. So.
I will add that there were some of the things that were just in general consensus that were just going to current consent that were pulled out, and we did discuss more. So I guess I would say, like, we should never be, if there's something that we're passionate about, we can always make an amendment. It was a fairly simple process to just pull it out and talk about it. The first one that went through was actually it went through, so it was really enlightening again. It was nice because afterwards you sort of got to talk to people that if you saw them again.
So I have a bunch of comments.
Yes,
please. Okay, so I didn't make any notes, so I would try and be efficient and interesting. But I really liked this conference. It was really wonderful. It was exhausting. It went really early in the morning to really late at night, and I went to everything. And I'll tell you, to save the date, November 9th to the 12th next year in Lansing, and I really think the board should strongly make a commitment. And gold star to Jennifer for being so excited about it last year, because that's what made me think about it this year. So I brought a few show and tells because I like books. I bought books from the speakers. There were 3 keynote speakers, and I will send you guys like links to the books and to like the websites. The Saturday morning speaker was the head of an organization called Because I Said I Would, which is a social movement and nonprofit dedicated to the betterment of humanity through promises made and kept. And it started with these simple business cards that he was mailing out to people. Everyone was crying through this presentation. It was absolutely amazing. He has some TED Talks. I'll send you the link. The MASB soundboard this week, I noticed, was him. I don't know whether it's the presentation he did at the talk or at the conference or not.
He talks, when we talk about conferences, we talk about the 7 lenses and.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I just saw that was him. So if you have time, it was truly amazing. And then the last person who spoke was the person who wrote the Queen Bees and Wannabes book. I have a lot of people recognize that name. And it was Cultures of Dignity. And honestly, they were just all really wonderful speakers. And so I just highly recommend everyone marking their calendar for it. It was also really amazing to just be with all the school board members from across the state. It was really, I think, inspiring to see all of these people who are really giving their time and really wanting to make their districts better. Dick, it really made me appreciate your service in a way that I hadn't before. And I don't mean that negatively, because obviously I know you've been here and been part of things, but I think seeing the bigger picture, really helped me understand why you gave it to this district. So thank you for all of that. And it also made me think about all of the teachers and social workers who work all day in the schools and then go home to their home districts as part of a board. And so I want to give a gold star to all of them. And we do have one in our district. So it was really, I think, wonderful to get to connect with everybody.
Anyone else have any more comments?
Yes. Yes. She snuck off before I could see.
Yeah.
She knew it was coming.
She ducked out on purpose.
I got a couple things. Just kind of reiterate. Lots of friends. Pretty impressed with Dexter. They also. Football, you know, no equal opportunities for girls, ladies. They are going for the title this week. They won the first game 7-0. Playoffs. Tuesday, Thursday at home. They won the home field advantage for Division 2. They win those. They'll play Saturday at Saline. They're a favorite to win. They get it. So, I am biased. So kudos to Barb Santos. I think she's the right person. She's here, but so if no one ever saw the read the state police auditor report. That largely falls on compliance. Usually it's HR. Thankless job, Barb. I know it. I see a lot. I talk to a lot of HR people in my current work. And, thank you. Kudos for that. That's an easy thing to get screwed up. I mean, that's how I make my money. I make my money when people screw that shit up. Because they don't do the due diligence, right? So yeah, the technical terms. But you know, so kudos to you. And then there's also Sharon, always the note from the auditors on the budget thoroughness. I know it's out. I'm sorry to put it out there on the website. Thank you. Because even though I attend finance meetings, it's a lot of stuff. And, it's hard to keep track. So thank you. Easy. And foundation, I talked about that. It's awesome. It's double. They can double it every year. We might not have this budget. So. This is more for you, Dr. Miss, or for electric parade, right? The electric parade is done during Christmas time downtown Dexter. It's electric light. Does everybody know what the electric parade? The lights parade. The lights parade. No one knows that.
It's the Dexter Days light parade.
Right. So they do a light parade downtown Dexter. It's probably the third year this year. I was invited, and I was talking to the Lions. Yeah, the Lions. We don't do anything. We have a fall. There's a lot of sports we do. Then we have the spring. Right? More. We rated some sports in the winter sports, right? Basketball.
Swim team.
No, exactly. They might want to be interested in high school, participating, like including whatever drama. Drama.
We get the band, and I think
it's pretty cool. If you get it bigger and bigger, it's
Usually our Department of Transportation.
It is a nice thing. I've only done it's only second year. It's done in some other communities and so I'm not sure. Melanie. It's a winter parade, but it's not.
It's the same time as holidays.
Probably early in December.
December 7th. December 7th. It's pretty quick around the corner, but it's easy to organize unless you want to go way up. The band has lights on their stuff and it's wrap everything in lights. You know. I think the kids might.
That's a good idea. As long as we're sure it's okay.
Maybe that clubs would have a better, like, share them in the clubs.
Yeah.
You do. I can talk about it too. Yeah, all the clubs. They might.
And the transport.
All right, I'm gonna steal Dan's thunder because, so I wanted to, all of the, all sports are like winding down, almost done. And the kids did Dexter youth football. Tons of kids out for the football program and the cheer program as well. And it was really great because on Sunday, the fifth, 16 played the fifth, 16, and they tied. So it was fantastic. I mean, you couldn't have ended better, so there was no taunt. It's really great. So it's great to see the kids coming up in the program and having all of the coaching and everything like that. But then I was also delighted to look at this art at Creekside and seeing that I was looking at all the art, like, wow, there's my kid. No, that's my son's. So nice, thank you for giving this to us. I appreciate that.
I guess I would like the minutes to reflect my thanks to Molly Shar for so many years of excellent work and contributions to the district. And they give her the very best wishes in all of her future. Should read.
And sign my name on that too.
I'm sorry, I should have mentioned, we did have a word chat before this meeting. We did have one attendee. Are we sharing what people came for, or are we just letting people know that? This was just a person who wanted to share that it's important to think about equity when we think about how we fund things. And this was specifically because the person had heard a lot of discussion about the pay to participate fees in the community. And they wanted to make sure that we understood that all of the different activities that kids did in our schools do cost money, and that it is important that we don't favor one over another in terms of how athletics. Right, they were specifically concerned that we keep our eye on all of the STEAM activities as well as athletic funding. And so they had heard a lot of discussion, and so we were able to talk about that.
I will add one more thing that one of the things that someone from Clarkston, their district, in their board comments, they call it points of pride, which I thought was cute. Which I think is what we end up doing anyway, because that's a lot of very positive stuff. So I thought we called it was points of pride. Anyone else? All right. We have informational items in our packet, and we don't have a closed session, so I shall adjourn this meeting.